Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I hope you'll stick around and watch my homeschool journey. My name is Jamie. I'm a homeschool mama of 3 boys. They are 7, 6, and 14 months old. I used to teach public education. I taught grades kindergarten, 2nd, and 3rd before I decided to stay home and homeschool. In today's video, I want to share with you our math curriculum for the upcoming school year. I used this curriculum last year and I'm planning on using it again this year. The curriculum that I use is called Zearn, and I'll leave a link down below for this curriculum. This curriculum is for grades kindergarten through 5th grade, and it is completely free. Everything I'm going to show you is resources that I got off of their website, and everything is free. In this video, I'm going to show you the teacher guides that I printed out, the student workbooks that I printed out, along with the online platform where the kids can go and there's games on there, there's lessons on there, and there's different fluency activities that they play. And I'm going to show you that online portion as well, and I'm going to show you what you will see in your login, and I'm going to show you what your child would see when they log in this video. Okay, here's a look at my Zearn teacher manuals. And these are for Zearn 1st grade, and I did these as 2 different manuals, missions 1 through 3 and then missions 4 through 6. And I'm just going to kind of give you a walkthrough of each manual. So I just printed this out from the online part, and then I binded it, and I just made me a title page. And then here is, I put these little sticky tabs on here. This is Zearn grade 1 mission 1, which is add and subtract small numbers. And this is the table of contents it comes with, and then it breaks it down into topics, and then it has the lessons in those topics. This is what a lesson looks like. So lesson 1, it tells you what it gives you the topic and tells you a little bit about it. Then lesson 1, it tells you about lesson 1. It tells you the materials you will be needing. It tells you that before this lesson, insert the number bond template into each student's whiteboard. And I just drew this on their board. Okay, and then it tells you what to do. It says T and then S. T stands for teacher. This is exactly what you'll say or what you'll do. S is what the kid's response should be. So like for an example, it says T, take out your egg carton, count to find how many slots there are. Wait for the signal to tell me. And then on this one, it tells you need 1 egg carton cut into 10 slots. So then the student says 10, and the teacher says someone already cut 2 off. How many slots are in there in the top row? The student would say 5. The teacher would say how many slots are in the bottom row? The student would say 5, and so forth. And it continues, and then it tells you like to continue working with this using 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then it goes into your lesson 2. And it has it written out like that for you for every lesson. So for topic 2, you would have meet place value. Oh yeah, after every lesson it also has an appendix. So I printed out the appendix. And it has a table of contents for the appendix, and then it has what you would need. So here it tells you would use these dot cards for lesson 2. And you could print these out in cardstock or whatever. I just put them in here, and then I could use them. Lesson 3, so it has an appendix. Okay, so for Zearn grade 1 mission 2, they learn about place value, same setup, lesson, materials, what you would say, and at the end of this one I also put in an appendix of what you would need. Zearn grade 1 mission 3 is measuring length, and this would cover length measurement, standard length units, non-standard and standard length units, and then data interpretation. And then for this one I did not break apart the missions with tabs, but you have missions 4 through 6. Great. So So grade 1, mission 4 is add and subtract big numbers. And it's set up the same way, tens and ones, comparison of pairs of 2-digit numbers, adding and subtracting of tens, adding of tens and ones to a 2-digit number. Varied problems within 20, addition of tens and ones in a 2-digit number. And then topic 5 is grade 1, mission 5, work with shapes. Attributes of shapes, part-whole relationships with composite shapes, halves and quarters of rectangles and circles, application of halves to tell time. So it would go into telling time here. This was like your fractions. Grade 1, mission 6 is add and subtract to 100. And this is comparing word problems, numbers to 120, adding to 100 using place value, like breaking it apart into tens, hundreds, tens, and ones. Varied place value strategies of addition to 100. Then it talked about money in this one as well. And then more word problems. Okay. So that is for grade 1. Grade 2, I broke these into smaller binding books, but it's the same thing. So grade 2, mission 1 is add and subtract friendly numbers. And this one's a very short unit. Same concept though, it goes over it and it tells you lesson 1, practice making tens and adding to tens. It doesn't have any kind of big notes in this one because it's just mainly a review. So here it does, lesson 3, add and subtract like units. Tells you the materials you would need. It gives you an opening problem to do. It says see appendix. You would do this, so you would go to the appendix. And this is what it looks like. And it's like a fluency activity. Okay. It tells you what to say. Teacher, what did you notice about today's sprint? That's what they're calling that up there. I noticed a pattern. That's what your student would say. Yes, today's sprint was filled with patterns. And this would be a lesson in 2nd grade. Okay, for grade 2, mission 2, they then go to exploring length, concepts of a ruler, estimating length using different tools, measure and compare lengths using different units, addition and subtraction of lengths. Mission 3, let's see if I can find. Mission 3, grade 2, mission 3 is counting and place value. So again, it's talking about base 10, hundreds and thousands, understanding place value ones, tens, and hundreds, 3-digit numbers in units for standard, expanded, and word form. That means like if you have the number 312, it's written in Word. Expanded would be like 300 plus 10 plus 2 equals 312. Word form would be writing it out in words. Modeling base 10 numbers within 1,000 with money. And this would be modeling numbers within 1,000 with place value disc, and then comparing 2 3-digit numbers. And then for grade 2, mission 4, it's add, subtract, and solve. Sums and differences within 100. Strategies of composing a 10. Strategies for decomposing a 10. And I still have to put my tabs in here. I am going to buy more tabs. I got to buy more of these. I'm out. Grade 2, mission 5 is add and subtract big numbers. Strategies for adding and subtracting within 1,000. Strategies for composing tens and hundreds within 1,000. Strategies for decomposing tens and hundreds within 1,000. And then it just says like they get to choose how they want to solve a problem and explain that to you. And then the last, not the last mission. I am so sorry. There is 8 missions in 2nd grade. There's 6 missions in 1st grade and then 8 in 2nd. Grade 2, mission 6 is equal groups. This will all have to do with like making equal groups, arrays in equal groups, rectangular arrays, and this is a foundation for multiplication and division. This would be like having 3 cookies in a row with 3 cookies, and they would be 3 times 3 is 9. Well, they don't teach multiplication until 3rd grade, but this is like your foundation to teach them how to draw that and then do like 3 plus 3. The meaning of even and odd numbers. And then topic 7 is length, money, and data. problem solving with data, problem solving with coins and bills, creating an inch ruler, measuring and estimating length using customary and metric units. And then mission 8 is shapes, time, and fractions. Attributes of shapes, composite shapes and fraction concepts, halves, thirds, and fourths of circulars and rectangles, application of fractions to tell time. And that's all the units for grade 2. So these are the teacher guides that I will be using for my students. It tells me what to say. For my kids, it tells me what to say. It tells me what they should be saying. It shows me how to write it on the board. Here is an example of the student work portion of Zearn. So I showed you the teacher guides, and now this is the student guides, or the student workbook. So I'm going to show you mission 1 for both of my boys is in their notebooks for next year. I've been putting their notebooks together, so I'm just going to show you what's in my files. So the way that I keep up with it or keep it organized is I give them each a folder. Inside of the folder I'll label the modules or the missions. Okay, this one has 6 missions, so this is the first grade one. And I keep each mission in a folder punched ready for the next school year. So they each have a title page. And then they go into the lessons. And these are the lessons that the kids do with the computer portion of Zearn. And this one just has an exit ticket. Some have more. Lesson 2 has student notes that they do with the, they do this portion with the person teaching the lesson online. And then this is their exit ticket that they do by themselves afterwards. And there's that for every Zearn lesson that there's an online portion for. There's not an online portion for every single one. See, right here's a good example of that. Lesson 3, lesson 4, there's no lesson 5. That means that day it'll say we're skipping past a lesson. Normally it's because that's a review lesson. And there's these kind of worksheets for every single module. It's very similar to this. Here's a peek into my second grader. There is more modules in here. There's 8 total modules. Okay, so this one's equal groups. So again, it has this lesson only has an exit ticket. It doesn't have the student notes that they fill out with the lesson. This one has the student notes, then an extra little sheet. Then there's the exit ticket. And you can see again there's no lesson 3. That means that must be a review lesson. I can show you a few more. So this one's length, money, and data. Again, the graph, the questions, the graph, the questions. Has some money in it. A word problem. And one of these had some pages you had to cut. Yep. So this one, cut along the dotted lines to make the circle while using for you to use today. And then it has the activities. This is their like actual workbooks or the work that they actually complete. In this curriculum, when you sign in to www.zearn.org and sign up as a teacher, this is the home screen that a teacher will see. Here you can get started, you can set up your class, you can set up your roster, you can look at the curriculum, and you can look at reports of your child's work. There's also some resources, and they have a help center if you need help with something. So I mainly stay in the curriculum and reports section. Sometimes I've used the resources, but I've been using this curriculum for so long that I really don't need the resource section anymore. The roster is where you would set up your students or your class, give them login information, and put in their names and their grade. So that way it levels your child appropriately. It's very simple and it walks you right through this section. I'm not going to show it to you because it does tell you my kids' names and their usernames and passwords. So let's take a look at the curriculum portion. So here it'll tell you the scope and sequence for all grades K through 5. This curriculum is for grades K through 5. I'm going to mainly be focusing on 1st and 2nd grade because that's what grade my children are in next year. So let's take a look at grade 1. I like to start at the overview page of a grade level. On grade 1 overview at the top, it'll tell you what your child will learn in first grade. You can also print this out and you can download it as a PDF. On the screen, it'll also show you the 6 missions that a first grader will complete and what those missions are. You have add and subtract small numbers, meet place value, measure length, add and subtract bigger numbers, work with shapes, and add and subtract to 100. If you click on these missions, it will bring you to all the information you need for that mission or section. At the top, it has an overview, and again, you can print that out as a PDF if you would like. Down here, it shows you the independent digital lessons. This is the portion that your child will take online. And the student notes and exit tickets that you can download is the student workbook that I used for my child. That's the workbook that I showed you in the video. That's the one I print out for my kids to do as their workbook. On the other side, it has whole group fluency, whole group word problems, small group lessons, and optional problem sets and optional homework if your child needs extra practice. The only thing that I print here is the small group lessons. I use this as my teacher guide. These are the lessons that I showed you in my video. This is the teacher guide I use to teach this curriculum to my children. The word problems are really good. I have used them before in the past, but I don't print the PDF out. It's very long. I would just click on it and pick a word problem for that day. The fluency is also good if your child struggles with their fact fluency. Now we're going to take a look at an actual lesson and what your child would see if they were completing this. So when you click on this lesson, number bonds, it's going to show you what your child would be doing. They would be doing 2 fluency activities, a guided practice where they would need that workbook, and then an independent practice game that is like a review for what they learned that day, along with a little bonus that's a review for that day. The number gym is a fluency, and they have all these games that your child can choose from. These games are the same K through 5th grade as far as I know. I know they're the same K2 because that's where I've spent most of my time. They do change, however, with the hardness. So in kindergarten, this game would not be offered. And then in 1st grade, this game would be offered, but it would just be using 10s and 1s. Once you get into the higher grades, they add in your 100s and your 1000 blocks to play this game. What's nice about that is your child has already played this game in 1st and in 2nd. So even though the numbers get larger, they understand how to play the game because it's exactly the same throughout the whole entire curriculum. And then you can see the little snowball came down and it knocked down one of these little ice cubes. That lets you know that there's 5 problems that your child will do in that game for that day. These are the whole list of games that your child could play. The next part is the blast. This is also a fluency activity. So this again varies by the grade. This varies by your child's grade. In 1st grade, they start off with just having to know how many dots are there. By the time they're done with 1st grade, they'll be doing adding and subtracting. When they get to the upper grades, there will be multiplication and division. It's all tailored for your children. And then it always has a bonus, so they do 10 problems in the blast. And my son told me that it's never timed on blast. That's another one that's timed. The next one is called guided practice. This is the math chat. This is the lesson where your child is going to be learning whatever that skill is for that day. So what I normally do is I teach my child first, and then they go to the computer and they do Zearn, and this is just someone else teaching them the same thing that we've already done, and it's just more practice for them on a certain skill. You can see they just have to answer the question. It will also read it to them if they have trouble reading. And then it'll go on to the next part where it's teaching you and showing you, yes, there are 2 purple cubes. And then it'll come up with a checkpoint where they have to answer another question. And this will continue through the entire lesson. This lesson was teaching you number bonds, so here the child will practice doing the number bonds. And this part will vary depending on what your child is learning at that time. These are just lessons. The next part is the Tower of Power. This is where the review is. So in this review, you're going to see number bonds because that's what your child was working on. Again, you can get this read to them. It'll read if you click on the little speaker. And then it just asks you a question. And the kids have to fill in the number bond. As the child completes the activities, the tower on the side will light up with green. Once it is completely colored in green, then your child will have no more questions for that day in that section. The last thing that I wanted to show you here is that they don't all have lessons. If you look right here at lesson 13, it says no independent digital lesson. That means your child would not have a Zearn activity that day. The reason for this is it's more like a review. So this day I would work with my child one-on-one still. I would still do that teacher guide portion, but they would not come over to the Zearn and do something on the computer. Instead, we would play a math game together. I would put them on something else, or I would just give them a worksheet for that day. It just depended on how much practice they needed. Sometimes you could skip those lessons altogether if your child really understands, since it is a review lesson. Here's an overview of grade 2, which is the other grade I will be doing next year with my children, and you will see that it is very similar. Grade 2 does have 8 missions instead of 6 missions. It's add and subtract friendly numbers, explore length, there's length, money and data, shape, time, and fractions. There's a few others. Okay, so let's look at shape, time, and fractions. Again, it has the student notes and the exit tickets. This is where I would print it out for my child, and that's the student workbook. It also has the small group lessons, which is my teacher guide. It also has optional work for the children, and it has the fluency and the word problems. Here it has number gym, which again is very similar to the same games that the child had before. You can see polar place values down there. That hops, skip, splash is a really good kindergarten game. That one my son played a lot in kindergarten, and my first grader played it a little bit too. The sprint, this one is timed. You have 60 seconds to answer as many problems as you can. Again, this works on fact fluency, and it looks a little different in first grade compared to second grade. It's still pretty simple in first grade. Second grade, you can see it's 8 plus 1, 18 plus 1, 28 plus 1, 58 plus 1. And again, in third grade, it would look much different. I'm pretty sure in third grade, it goes into multiplication. I'm trying to remember from when I taught third grade in public school, because this is something I used back then too. The child will also have the learning lab, which is the same thing as the math chat, and this is their guided lesson. And you can see this one has to do with shapes. And this is where she would teach you, and then it'll ask you to do some activities with the shapes. So you would answer the problem, and then once you've answered the problem, it goes back to the video. The next part is the Tower of Power, which again is that review portion of whatever your child learned for that day. And it also has the bonus, which is the extra review for your child for that day. I'm not going to open up the reports because it gives you my children's names. However, I wanted to let you know this is what it looks like. It has a using reports, an activity tracker, because in kindergarten they don't have the lessons, they just have the games. So it keeps track of those. In grades 1 through 5, it'll do their pace. This will allow you to see how far along your child is coming and where they're at in their missions. It gives you a progress of how your child is performing on the activities. For the fluency is for the sprint alerts, and the tower alerts are for that review portion. And in this section, these tower alerts let you know if your child is struggling with the power of tower, and the sprint alerts let you know if your child is struggling with the fluency portion of the lesson. I really like that they have those in there. I look at those quite frequently to make sure my kids are understanding.